one of those days. It's been a long one. It's all right. All right, so we should have sound now, guys. All right. Fortunately, I was only talking to myself for about 3 minutes or something. Okay, now we have sound. Okay, so I'll go back and answer. I didn't like my answer to that question anyway, so I guess I get to do it again. So anyway, Uros came in first, so good on you, Uros, coming in from YouTube first. You get today's gold medal. Whatever that means. So comes up with a question. So mobile app, why is it not considered a priority if the idea is to serve the retail market, or what is a typical representative of the retail market as you see it? So I'll break it down in two ways. Mobile is important. And it may seem like it hasn't been important to us, but it's always been important. In fact, it was one of the first things we started working on. Difference is that the company we were using to create the app, over time, we realized that it wasn't the right partner for us for the app. Though we did give them a few chances to make, to change our minds about that. In that time, we were creating what was driving us revenue, which at the time wasn't the mobile app. To be fair, in the beginning, the mobile app had no way to generate us revenue. However, we were seeing revenue and seeing increases of revenue over time from our desktop and our mobile browser versions of our exchange, from margin platform, etc. I think that the margin platform is probably one of the biggest generators, as well as Tram. And Tram has never been on the mobile app, not because we didn't want it there. But margin trading, I think the more complex the trading engine, the less likely people are going to do it from mobile apps. That doesn't mean mobile is not important. Mobile is priority for us. In fact, it was priority number one, just that our development team that we had, that we eventually, built that team, the team we eventually built for the desktop experience was simply better and has been able to put together a better experience. And now we need to transition to a new mobile team. So the goal right now is to get this V3 out as fast as we can towards the end of this month. We hopefully will meet that deadline, and it'll be a substantially better to what the current app is in the app stores. It's still not anywhere near what we want it to be. And that's why we're going to transition to a new team. So it is a priority. We will have a fantastic mobile app. It'll be as good or better than our current browser-based versions of all our products. But if we were to transition all our resources right now to mobile, I'm not sure it would be the best benefit, because right now the experience most people get when they come in is with the onboarding and everything included. Onboarding is a big part of that experience. We see industry level or higher when we talk about what conversion from website to sign up to KYC. Even KYC now into conversion is actually at or above industry standards, but we want to make it better. And so we've been focusing a lot on those type of experiences, because we feel that while our platforms still need a bit of polish, and we will continue to polish them, that they're already in most ways, better than the competition. Our mobile app's nowhere near as good as the competition. Thus, rather than leaving our desktop experience right now, let's say, or our web experience to be better in most ways, but not extremely better than everyone else, it's about getting that to that polished point, and then focusing that full attention on the mobile app and making that as well better than the competition, and then having a whole suite to be able to push out. If we had the resources to be able to do this side by side, we would have been doing it. But unfortunately, we didn't have the resources to do that. But as we move through the bond, as we move through other fundraising mechanics, I think we will have the resources to do that, and it will become a priority again. Yep, so no sound. Trying to find, is there not a self solution for a mobile app? You could also, well, we could just get the web version and encapsulate it into an app. That's an option. I wouldn't want to use a shelf solution. I don't think I've ever seen a shelf solution of anything that I would think is completely up to par with what the experience that we want to present to our clients, at least in the crypto space. Hey, Kevin, new to the live stream, but currently watching recent live streams. Looking forward to understanding a lot more. I'm very new to all this in general. Well, questions. You can ask me as questions. Ask me whatever you want. I'll try to answer. Hopefully that's going to help you on your journey. Nice to have you here, though. I think the intermediate solution is getting V3 out towards the end of the month, having a better solution than what we currently have, and then focusing our attention on making a completely redesigned solution that's going to blow away the rest of the competition. Is right now a bad time to buy crypto or XCM, considering we're in what feels like a bubble? Also, how do you feel about 2021? And if everything were to crash, what will happen to CoinMetro? Okay, so let me break these down into individual questions here. So is it right now, is it a bad time to buy crypto or XCM, considering what feels, we're always in a bubble. Capital markets are basically always in bubbles. Most people think that bubbles are only to the upside. So a bubble means, bullish. Not necessarily. You can have a bearish bubble as well. Most people would define bubbles, though, as being bullish only. But we're always going to be in and out of bubbles. So, a lot of making investment decisions relies around your feeling. And that's the way most human beings work. I don't necessarily think it's a bad time. I think if you look at the progression of pricing for crypto in general over the last 10 years, not one point throughout those 10 years was a bad time. Yep, if you bought at the highs of 20K, it wasn't the best time. But I'm not sure in retrospect and moving forward over a longer period of time if it would have been a bad time. So it really depends on your scope. Are you a macro scope, a microscope? Are you looking at trying to microscope? Are you looking at trying to, beat the market in the next 3 to 6 months, in the next 6 to 12 months, in the next 3 to 5 years, in the next 10 to 20 years? And that's going to tell you whether it may not be the most optimal time. I don't think it's bad. It might not be optimal, but it depends on what you're looking to do, really, what your own goals are. 2021, I'm not sure everything is going to crash over a long term. I do think, looks like we are going to have a Democratic president in the U.S., though it looks like the Senate, one of the houses, may actually be still controlled by the other side, Republicans, which means that you're not going to have much that's going to happen. But the president can still issue executive orders, which more than likely they will, or he will. But I don't think you're going to see any sustained crashes. Now, does the market need some retracing? Yes, absolutely. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad time. Markets crashing, markets going higher. We are an exchange. So we make money whether the market goes up or down. We make money when people come to transact. And people transact when markets are crashing. And people transact when markets are flying. And people transact when markets are generally stable and not volatile as well. The more volatile, the more transactions, the better it is usually for this type of business. But that doesn't mean that it needs to be bullish in order to be good for the business. So what I would say to that is, in terms of our own token, I think our token over time is getting intrinsically tied to the value of the company. And the company's value can go higher even in bear markets. So I think as awareness starts to grow, as we move into growth marketing, as we go out from mostly tests into larger campaigns, I think that bodes well for us, and it bodes well for our utility token as well over time. I think for crypto in general, you may see some bearish trends and then moving into bullish to bearish to bullish. That's normal in any market, and that doesn't affect us as a business. Because like I said, as the market matures, now in a market that's not mature at all, having it bearish all the time means less people want to get into that market, which can be bad. As a market matures, then people stay in bearish or bullish because they're playing the market, they're speculating. Lots going on this week. It's been a long week, to be honest. I was just like chugging some water before I sat down here because I hadn't really drank any water any day. I literally haven't had a headache, I think, since I went vegan and stopped eating sugar and all this other stuff. But it's been about 8 years since I had a headache, I think. And I almost have one today. Not for any bad reasons, but just because I didn't drink any water, man. Usually I drink 2-3 liters of water a day. And I think I had a glass because I just been trying to get stuff done. So it's been meetings back to back today. This week was, I think we made a lot of progress on many different fronts. We have a lot more progress to make, obviously, as a company, but we did well. Did some sales calls around the bonds, which I think some of them are going to turn out quite well. Did some talking as well about fundraising, but it was working with Ignium throughout the week as well on bringing on some new clients on the Ignium side. Did some regulatory work on CoinMetro side with our local regulator. So there's been stuff, some biz dev stuff talking about these biz dev solutions with Paxful, for example, and a few other biz dev solutions that we've been floating around internally in the company. Some product development, expanding some functionality of our admin panels, and lots of stuff. Some stuff that, to be honest, off the top of my head, I can't even remember. But it's been a long week, that's for sure. I think we did the filming. We did this filming of a video here on Sunday and Monday. And on Tuesday when I came to the office, I thought it was Thursday. So that's pretty much how the week's been going. Kevin, I've seen a number of predictions for CoinMetro in the next year's volume withdrawals. Can you give your prediction for XCM price? This is look, I don't like to give specific predictions on price. What I will tell you is what I already said. We set a indicative price for XCM in the next 2 years with that bond redemption, right? 50 XCM per one bond. I think that's potentially very conservative. In terms of price, as CoinMetro matures, as we get more clients, as we get more volumes, and I explained this actually via direct message to somebody on Telegram today that asked me, volumes have been going up, but why hasn't XCM been going up? Why is XCM going down? Why volume's going up? Well, one, there isn't a direct immediate correlation between volumes going up and XCM price going up. However, there is a correlation. That correlation is a bit more difficult to calculate. Understand that we don't charge for limit orders. And if limit orders get hit by a liquidity provider that we pay for liquidity, we actually pay to execute that limit order. So we lose money on that transaction. But it adds volume to the exchange, which lowers our cost overall for the liquidity, gives us makes us look better to the outside world, and brings us in more clients. So it's a bit of it's not immediate. There isn't an immediate effect. However, let's assume they're all market orders and we are making money. We are buying more XCM, but the amount of XCM we're going to be buying off the market is less than the amount of XCM being bought by clients and by traders, considering the current volumes. But you get to a point where it starts to snowball. You get to a point where the buying gets, so you have a timeline that looks like this. Initially, the buying that we're doing doesn't really raise price, right? But as more people come in, price goes up, and the volumes may not be significant, but they're enough to buoy price. We've been buoying price initially around the 2 cent level, then the 3 cent level, now between 3 and 4 cents for 2 years. And we've been doing that in part because of the fact that we've been pushing all the fees back into XCM. So we've been buoying price, not necessarily pushing it higher, but buoying it. As volumes get even higher, we start to get to a point where the volumes themselves, bringing in new clients, generating new buyers of XCM, is what's actually forcing price higher. And then we go from being a buoy of price, or a supporter, supporting the price, to actually inducing demand to increase price. So I think in that timeline, we're kind of somewhere between this initial buoying of price to now starting to cause, I guess we're in the middle of the buoy price. I think when we start to see 3 to 5 million a day or so in volume, we will start to see a more direct effect between volumes and increase in price. And so, yeah, I guess hope that answers your question, at least somewhat. Hi, Kevin. Good afternoon. My question is about the XCM token swap. This is critical as people can get scammed. Hey, Daniel. Yeah. So it's planned we're planning it next week. I don't have a specific date, but it looks like it may happen next week. It may happen the week after as well, but we're planning to get this done. We don't have any liquidity, as far as I know, currently on Uniswap. So that's one easy aspect in comparison to, let's say, what happened with Parsec, for example. We will make announcements into our own community. Obviously, we'll make announcements on our blog. There will be announcements everywhere we can. We will alert Uniswap. We will alert CoinMarketCap. We will alert that we're making a token swap. And I think that's the best we can do. I think that there will be individuals that end up buying fake XCM or old XCM. There's nothing we can do about that. This is a open market in kind of the most cleanest definition of an open market you've ever heard, because anyone can sell to anyone OTC or via some DEX. And that's what makes DEXs, well, a bit of a problem. But there's no way for us to completely stop that, unfortunately. What we can do is do as much public alerting, give, in 48 hours this is going to happen. We're also, obviously there's someone out there who is holding what I think it's 3 million or 4 million XCM that are going to become worthless to them. In fact, they're pretty much worthless to them now because there's really nowhere they can get rid of them. So I don't think that's going to cause too much of an interest. It's a little bit different, again, to what happened with Parsec, for example, especially when you tie in Poloniex and the nonsense that they cause. So we're going to do our best to make sure everyone is aware, give a timeline, and go ahead and move according to that timeline. Yep, I understood that. No problem. Partnership. We were looking to become an on and off ramp of fiat funds for verified Paxful users. So when a Paxful user lives in the UK and says they want to deposit pounds to buy Bitcoin, or they want to buy Bitcoin with their pounds, we would come up as an option. If a guy in Europe wants to buy Bitcoin with euros, we would come up as an option. If a guy in the US wants to buy with US dollars, we would come up as an option, etc. So basically, we would be a payment gateway for sellers or buyers, so selling the Bitcoin they bought on Paxful, or for sellers who need to re-up Bitcoin to be able to sell it to others on Paxful for other payment methods. That's essentially what it is. Hey, Charlie, I just updated everybody on that. We're planning either next week or the week after. But we're going to set a timeline. Once we have the timeline, we will set in motion. It won't happen where we say it just happens on Tuesday and then we let everybody know about it. There will be a lead in to how it's going to happen and a timeline. Raise fund and open office in U.S. to boost more U.S. sales and can compete with Coinbase. Hey man, I don't know the name because I can't speak, but I know you come on here and ask questions every now and again. So let me give you an idea of what it would cost to open. It's not as simple as opening an office in the U.S. As soon as you open an office in the U.S., it's going to be in some state, and you would need state licensing to run just the exchange business if you're physically in that state. Now, that single license will only give you access to that single state. Now that you're physically in the U.S., however, you will probably need to get licensing in every state. For 49 state MSB licensing, you will spend between $1 and $2 million. You will also probably require different licenses in other states for other aspects of the business. In fact, since we offer margin trading and things like that, if we really want to compete one-to-one with Coinbase, we would probably need a broker-dealer's license. That's $25 million in capital, probably a year to 18 months worth of time to both prepare, submit, and receive the license, and an additional $500,000 on legal fees at a minimum. And if we add on to that, then the amount of staff we would need to cover, we're probably talking another, in the first year or two, another $2 to $4 million. So probably need about $35 million to be able to do that, to compete with a physical branch in the US. Now, I don't see that as necessary. In fact, I almost hope it's never necessary. We live in a world where we can transact. We work with technologies where we can transact over borders without the need to be there physically. We currently can onboard clients from 47 states. And if we get a BIT license, for example, and potentially get 2 licenses in those other states, we can onboard from all 50 states. We can do that without having a physical presence in any of those states. Because the BIT license may actually require a presence, actually. So scratch that. Maybe we do need a presence in New York, but that would be one state. I think for us, competing with Coinbase is just letting all the Coinbase clients know we're cheaper, we're better, our support is better, and we offer more products. That's it. That can be done without a physical presence. There's an old school line of thought, and it doesn't mean only old people think this, or boomers, that if you're not sitting next to me somehow, there's higher risk. And we get that too. I used to get that. I owned a FX company in Vanuatu. Trust me, I've heard every possible complaint about jurisdiction that you're ever going to hear, ever. And I even get them in Estonia because, it's Estonia, because of Danske Bank. Danske Bank's not even an Estonian bank. In fact, most of their fraud had nothing to do, almost none of their fraud had anything to do with Estonia. All that money laundering was just through a very strategic operation from a bank located outside of Estonia that specifically put a branch in Estonia and pumped all this illegal business through that branch, because if they lost that branch, it wouldn't affect their parent entity so much. And, but most people don't quite understand that because they don't read between the lines, or they don't understand really how finance works. So they blame Estonia. Okay. Those hurdles can easily be overcome. It's all about transparency. It's about giving people enough information where they can trust in the information, thus they trust in you. That's a process. But I think having a physical location in the US would cost us too much money. It would induce too much risk. It would induce too much overhead, which is also money, obviously, including human resources. And I don't think it's automatically going to make us compete with Coinbase. Coinbase has a very specific business plan, and ours is a little bit different. And I think we can compete with them right now. The problem is they have more money and they're more well-known. They've been here longer. People know them more than they know us. To change that, we need to market ourselves. Simple as that. How can he possibly predict XCM price? 18 months ago, trade volume was way under 100K and XCM at 5 cents. Right now, volume is over 1 million in XCM. Well, like I said, there's no direct correlation to immediate volume. Sorry, guys. Let's see. I'm going to mute myself for a second, guys. Sorry, guys, personal daughter stuff. Give me a second to send a quick message. Okay. So yeah, I've already kind of explained this XCM thing. I wouldn't get too frustrated about that. I understand that XCM was at 5 cents because it was less liquid. The more liquid you get initially doesn't necessarily mean you get price goes higher. Liquidity and price, or higher price, don't correlate either. So sometimes more liquidity simply means that people have a more opportunity to sell, and thus they sell. And then you get, with more liquidity, you get speculative short-term buys and sells as well, where people will buy at 3 cents and sell at 3.3 because it's a 10% gain. Why would they hold any longer if they're just looking for day trading or trying to hold a position for no more than a couple days? That's a good thing overall. That's a good thing. So while it may not look good in price, it bodes well for future price. Hey, Kev, any news on UI UX updates? They always seem to get delayed. I'm wondering if you have more development capacity. Specifically, what UX, UI UX updates would be my question. We're supposed to have I think deposit and withdrawal flow should come out today. The new deposit and withdrawal flow. KYC is being worked on in the UI UX side as this deposit and withdrawal flow has been in the development side. We also have legal KYC that's going to go through some of the similar process for companies. And then currently we have work being done as well on affiliate pages. So there is work being done. I'm not sure exactly what update you're talking about, but if you get a bit more specific, I can help. What's a bearish bubble? Well, what I mean is most people, even if you read it like on an Investopedia or whatever, one of those websites, you'd probably read that bubbles are only to the upside. But if you look at what a bubble is mechanically speaking, It is usually something that's driven by overexuberance or hype or etc., and it creates a market that can't sustain itself. Well, you can do the same thing on the bearish side. You can have FOMO or FUD, basically in a market that drives a market into a similar mechanics where it's driven by fear or greed. Well, it's usually driven by fear on the downside, but driven by fear, fear takes over the market and it's irrational. You create a bearish bubble. And that's not usually what they're called. But from a mechanical standpoint, there's nothing different from a bubble on the upside or a bearish downswing. Not all swings, I should make that point. When you have something that's driven by hype on the upside or FUD on the downside. What are your thoughts about BTC reaching 16K? Do you think BTC will reach 20K in this year? I think Bitcoin has mostly reached 16K. One major reason why it's up to where it is now is Tether. Tether's printing a lot of Tether that they probably can't back one-to-one with anything. And they're doing that because I think they're afraid that the New York State Attorney General may start to press charges. They probably know more than we do. So they're printing a ton of Tether and then moving that Tether out of the system into assets that they can actually trade out of at their initial value. And because they're creating so much Tether, they're creating a massive amount of liquidity out of thin air, and they're pushing it mostly into Bitcoin. I think that's probably 70% of why Bitcoin has risen. Obviously, Bitcoin, because it rises, gets more media attention. That brings in more newbies, and more newbies come in to buy Bitcoin, which also drives its price. You also have, things like the election and stuff like that, which can also drive price. What you would expect, though, if we do declare on the Democratic side Joe Biden as the winner, and he is planned within his first 100 days, probably first day to be fair, to reinstate some of those President Trump executive orders, that if he messes around with capital gains, you're going to see massive profit taking in the stock market. That massive profit taking will cause a quick bearish turn, retrace, if you will, and that probably will also affect Bitcoin price. But up until that happens, you will be having probably capital flowing into Bitcoin to be able to trying to take Bitcoin higher so that those profits they take will be higher. Hi, Kevin. What will happen if you can't raise a 2.5 million through the bond? How are the financials at CoinMetro? Can you survive 2021? We will survive 2021. Whether we have €1 in the bank or whether we have €1 billion in the bank, we will survive 2021. And the reason is that, and I've said this a million times, not a million times, maybe I've said it a bunch of times, in that if it comes down to me and 2 or 3 other people that are passionate enough to stick it out, and we have to handle everything, then that's what we do. It's not optimal, but that's what will happen until we raise the money or until we gain enough, until we make enough money, seeing at that point that the cost base would be lower, so that we can actually expand the team again. So regardless of what happens, we will be here in 2021, 2022, 2023. Financials right now, if we don't include what's been raised in the bond, I think the runway is about 2 months, considering current financials. If we talk about what's already been raised in the bond, it extends it to going on 3 months. If we talk about money that's been kind of talked about being committed to the bond, that extends even several more months out into the future. We aren't just raising the bond. We also have a basic equity round also running at the same time. The bond is more attractive than straight to equity because, well, you get those interest payments and you still get access to the same valuation that currently exists, but we can't offer all investors the bond. So yeah, if we don't raise the 2.5, we do what we need to do to maintain ourselves, to push forward, to continue to do what we've been doing. In 2019, we were fundraising throughout the entire year, and some months, we would fundraise exactly what we needed for that month. But we continue to build product, and we're still here, and we'll continue down that track regardless of what happens with the bond. Oh, sorry, just missed mine. There's a lot of questions here. I'm asking Kevin, not you. Oh. They made a prediction about, okay, so I already answered that one. I guess that was somebody. Any good news on marketing efforts? USD volume still pretty low. Marketing, so we're in discussions to spend the biggest spend we've ever done so far on a specific marketing campaign, which will probably start this week or next week or the week after. Content is being made for that campaign. We expect to see over those 2 months something around 12 to 15,000 new accounts with roughly, I would say, 300 to 600 new active traders. So we'll see how those go. We also are revamping a bit some of the other marketing that we've done. We have this video that's going to come out for the bond that we'll use and push around social media. And we're going to start talking to some influencers as well, not just in crypto, but in finance. So yeah, it's still a process. We haven't started spending real money on marketing as of yet, but we will be. And again, the biggest spend we've done, which isn't still massive in terms of marketing spends, but it's going to be somewhere north of 10 to 20,000 euro. Thank you, Bjorn. Appreciate that. Yeah, new STOs definitely coming. The two that I mentioned before, Genomics and the media company, are still on tap. And there's actually a few others that I'm in talks with, but those two are still on tap for sure. And listings, we're going to start ramping up on listings toward the end of Q4, talking about utility tokens as well. So that's happening as well. Yeah, right. I mean, it's amazing. The headaches, I mean, dehydration is the main cause of headaches, to be fair. And sugar dehydrates you, by the way. So dehydration is it. Just drink water. That's literally the cure-all. It's not caffeine. It's not take another cup of coffee. It's water. PRQ Boost has been tradable since we launched it, which was what, a week ago? More than a week ago now. So yeah, it's tradable. Yeah. If you could, guys, thumbs up or hearts or whatever you got to do would be great. It's going to help us get to where we're going. Hi, good afternoon, Kevin. My question is about the XTM token swap. All right, I already answered that one. All right, that was a question of somebody else. Nope, don't have anything for you right now. We're trying to garner information from them, exactly what they want from us. It's been a little vague. So now we're in the process of essentially trying to get them to tell us what they want. And then we're going to look at if it's a simple solution, we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks. If it's a more complex creating of a completely new API and widget solution for them specifically, we're talking probably 12 to 16 weeks. Yeah, appreciate that. And yeah, the better, and we're always doing better. It might not be what everybody's hoping for day to day, month to month, but we are doing better all the time. I would describe it as the kind of beginning of the snowball. And I know people expect things to happen quicker all the time. I know people think that when it looks easy from the outside, it generally should be easy, but it's not. We're talking about a regulated company in an industry that can't advertise in many places, that gets restricted to advertise in many places, where if you just follow the leader, you're going to pay 90 to 150 euros per sign up. And that will lead to, CoinMetro not existing anymore. So fine tuning to get, Coinbase probably pays 130, 150 euros a sign up. They can afford that. We can't. If we can do the same and get that same sign up for 18 euros, we are massively better than Coinbase. And in our tests, we've been able to do that. So it takes a long time to be able to fine tune. When you have all the money in the world that you can just throw at advertising, you don't care if you're spending, especially if with your very high fee base, you're going to recoup that money. When you have a much lower fee base, you need to have lower incoming costs. And also, you need to make sure that you have cross-marketing in place so you have somebody using multiple services. All these things take time, and it's not something that can happen with a snap of a finger. So the current situation is like we're in the laboratory. We've been in the laboratory for quite some time. Curing cancer doesn't take a day. You may have, throughout the 20, 30-year process, you may have, it's not going to take 20, 30 years for marketing, but just give you an analogy. You may have, a month, this month you say, oh my God, we're so close, and then didn't work out. And then we got it, but it only works, we can't trial this drug. Oh, we have a trial now. Oh, it's the same thing. It's lots of ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. But when you get it done and it's done, it's done. And so we're in the laboratory. We're not the first days in the laboratory. We've been in the laboratory for a while. We have a lot of great tests and a lot of great data. And with more money, we'll be able to see if those tests are accurate. And if they are, then we got it. As I said, I don't want to ask opinion about my questions. What a stupid question. I don't want to be rude. Oh, okay, yeah. Anyway, it isn't Ask Me Anything, guys. You can literally ask me anything. I have 5 minutes before I have another call, so I'm going to try to breeze through as many questions as I can. Yep, as I said, bigger snowball coming up. Look, we can onboard clients in the U.S., but it's because of the fact that we're a foreign registered money service business with FinCEN. And 47 states don't specifically, in their regulation, ask for a physical presence or ask for a license. But that doesn't mean they may not want one. So we need to tread lightly as we grow as well, to where if we put something out and say, Binance, you got screwed by Binance, coming on board, we accept US clients. That can get us into a bit of an issue and trouble. Doesn't mean we can't accept US clients. But again, this is why marketing isn't so straightforward all the time. We're not marketing a pair of shoes where we can just say we have the best shoes. That's not the way it works. So I get that people see these things and thinks we should just be able to capitalize on this. But look, we could spend $100K on that specific, a Binance type of thing and still not get any clients. It's not that easy. It's not that you just throw a flag up and all of a sudden everybody jumps on the flag. Can you give me a definitive answer on the Flare XRP drop? It's happening on 12/12. If BitGo CM don't support it, I should move my XRP. I don't have a direct answer from BitGo yet, so I cannot answer that question. The best thing would be, and I'm obviously in touch with BitGo. When I have an answer, I will answer you. The best thing as well is for you to check the BitGo website from time to time and see how they're, in their blog and everything, if they're talking about supporting that airdrop. In general, I haven't seen BitGo support an airdrop. Doesn't mean they won't support this one, but they haven't supported any up to the time that I know of. Will XCM staking happen in Q4, or it might be pushed back? It's scheduled to happen in Q4, and because it's mostly front end, I think it will happen in Q4. Yep, liquidity providers are on tap for back-end development. That's the next thing on tap after the current sprints are complete. I think the current sprint should end. Actually, probably would have ended today, might not end until next week. But that's the next. That's literally the next thing on the radar. So we're talking 4 to 6 weeks. So it's going to happen probably before Christmas break. Will we have to do anything to exchange our XCM tokens for old to new? No. Will Brian stop bothering to reply then? Okay, so. How do I get my Huel shake to be less lumpy? Blender, man, blender. One, if you're gonna use water and it's cold, that's gonna help it get lumpy. Unfortunately, a warm shake tastes like shit. So you can use tap water if you wanna use like room temperature water, put some ice in there. That'll make it less lumpy, but put it in a blender. Shaking it, I don't shake them by hand, man. I always put mine in a blender. If you don't have a blender, try to use some form of creamy milk. If you don't use lactose like I don't, you go with maybe a cashew milk. Cashew milk is what might be even too creamy, depends on the cashew milk, might even make it more lumpy. But I would stay away maybe from a soy unless you have a blender. Maybe almond might work out for you. And shake, 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 shake. Are you currently vaulting anywhere close to 50% of XCM bought from fees? Today we vaulted 6,800 XCM, which does not seem to be close to 50% of the fees collected considering the current volume. Remember that current volume might be limit orders. In fact, the majority might be limit orders. In that case, we don't make money. In fact, we pay money because most of that's going to be filled by a liquidity provider. We're actually vaulting 100% of the fees in XCM that we make on the exchange. On margin, it's a bit different. So some of that volume definitely comes from the margin platform as well. And keep in mind, we don't make money on limit orders. Hey, Kevin, regarding investment products, do you think there is scope to work with investment broker to have better reach with traditional clients? Yes, definitely in some markets. It's definitely something we're looking into, especially Germany and the UK. Haven't been able to really nail one down yet, but yes, it's a possibility. Hey, Kev, here is a copy pasted post I found on a CM thread online. Interested to see what you have to say about it. Crypto is already smeared in the eyes of people from the 2K17 burn. Nobody wants to touch crypto. Obviously, that's not true. And here we are thinking a centralized exchange, which wants as much information as you from a bank, but for an extremely volatile gambling currency will somehow swing people to its way of thinking. I think, so I'll start here. This is ridiculous. There's more wallets created today than there ever was in the 2017. That means there's way more adoption today than there was in 2017. People that were burned, which is a very small portion of the population, probably less than 0.5%, may never come back to crypto. But can you imagine the amount of people that have been burned by the stock market that never went back to the stock market? Well, it's still here. In fact, it's always bigger every year, year on year, even though every year people get screwed. So that's a ridiculous statement, to be fair. It's a statement that comes from someone that only sees high level and doesn't care to really delve into the reality. People hate banks. Lots of people leave banks. Banks make more money every year. Same type of equation. When you talk about, this guy's probably someone who likes decentralization, and probably considers that to be the future. And that's great. Decentralized exchanges have their place in the future, but they will be hit with KYC. They will be centralized to a certain extent as well. It's going to happen. Layman's probably won't use decentralized exchanges unless there's some type of layer 2 technology that allows them to do that without having to hold private keys. And if that happens, that solution itself might not be completely decentralized. And if it is, there's still going to have to be some centralized point for KYC and for AML purposes and for tracing of these money transactions between participants. So I think generally, everybody has an opinion. Like I'll say this again, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Some people's opinions go very deep, and you can discuss those for hours. This is a very high level opinion. And again, think about it. Stock market. My dad lost money in the stock market. My grandfather lost money in the stock market. I've met people who everybody's lost money in the stock market at some point. And when they lose, some people go, the stock market's a scam. Now, that's debatable, because I would say it probably is a scam, but not for those reasons. But the stock market gets bigger every year, gets more people investing in it every year. Why is that? Well, you could argue that the system's built to get more money in the stock market, but don't think that the crypto system, as it matures, won't be built with the exact identical way that the system for the stock market is built. That means people are pushed into those investments because over time they show returns, and they're pushed in to do them. And where are they going to do them? Are they going to do them in a place that they don't understand, technology they can't deal with, or are they going to go to something that's more familiar to them? So there's going to be a place for decentralization. There's going to be a place for hybrids. There's going to be a place for centralized. Eventually, we will become a hybrid, that's for sure. It's really about customer service, to be fair, at the end of the day when it comes to finance. And most everybody does it wrong. On the average, the contribution to the bond per investor is about 1K. Any investor with a bigger budget, like 5 or 6 figures. Actually, on average, that's correct. But the average is always going to be that way. Even if one guy comes in next with, 500K, we'll get a bunch of €30 guys. And it'll still probably come out between 1 and 3K on average. That's usually how it pans out. But yes, there are. I'm in touch with a few of them. It's just not something that happens usually in the first 10 days. They know they have 90 days. They're going to take their time. They're not going to come in on day one. I hope that some people are good lip reading here. Yeah, I was to call about my daughter, so don't worry about it. Hey, Bill, that's PRQ Boost. It was a token created by PRQ, one to offset some losses from some people that lost during their token swap. The other side is to remunerate liquidity providers on Uniswap. I believe they have been. Yeah, I think if you go into your account right now, though, they may only be activated for still US-based participants. I don't know if we've opened up the door yet for testing. I don't know if we opened up the door yet for international accounts, but you can check. If you go in, check your deposit page, see if you see USD international rather than domestic. All right, guys, I'm going to have to call it a day here. I'm about 4 minutes late for my call. Thank you very much, KB. It's a good note to end on. Guys, there's more questions here. I can't get to them. I was a bit late today, so I apologize for that. But please, if you have a question and it's a good one, and that might be subjective, but if it's a good question, please tag me on Telegram at Kevin Murcko, tweet me. on Twitter at Kevin Murcko, and I will answer your question. I will jump in there right after the call I have right now, which is going to last about a half an hour. In fact, I may come back and even find some of these questions and try to answer them from here. We'll see. Outside of that, it is Friday. Have a great weekend, guys. Like always, spend time with friends and family. You're probably going to have to do that virtually now because COVID's on the rise again. And when you're doing that virtually, and again, you're chatting with somebody, you're chatting with a friend, a family member, the conversation goes on for 3 or 4 hours. They keep repeating themselves. You don't really want to hear it anymore, but you don't want to actually hang up in their face. Make sure as you mute them, so you don't have to pay attention, you whisper to them, buy XCM, because it's only going to help us out, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Spend time again with friends and family. Do whatever you can over the weekend. De-stress. Don't look at prices. Buy some XCM. You know the drill. And see you guys on the flip side. Thanks a lot for a great AMA. Thanks for all the questions. Sorry I couldn't get to all of them. As I said, send them to me on Telegram, and I'll hit them up. Cheers.